Matt Castelli is running for Congress. Matt, I'm looking at it. Do you want to comment on any of this? But you're a Democrat, so we have to excuse everything that you say. So sorry, but I do have to say I'm reading your bio, and Matt is running against Elise Stefanik. And bear with me, Matt. I don't think you have a chance in the world. I'm just saying that, and you convinced me I'm wrong, but I don't think you have a chance in the world. However, I wonder why you're running as a Democrat. Former CIA, signed up after 9/11. You worked with the same unit that found bin Laden. Prior to that, you interned with the NYPD, director of counterterrorism of the National Society Council under Obama and Trump, started a nonprofit to get PPE to healthcare providers in the early days of COVID, worked at a tech company helping veterans and others access healthcare and social services, grew up in upstate New York, went to Siena. Your mother's Republican, your father's a Democrat. You then went to business school, and now you're running for Congress as a Democrat. What are you thinking?
Well, good morning. I'm glad to be with you all to share some thoughts about that, as well as why we have a tremendous opportunity here to bring country before party, because that's why I'm running. And it's really about restoring safety, security, and strength to New York 21. And I don't think any party's got a monopoly on those issues. It's about how you show up and deliver results to achieve safety, security, and strength. And as you've been talking about all this morning, that requires us to put country before party. And that's something that I did throughout my entire career. As you noted, I'm an upstate New York guy, born and raised, went to school up here. And, I grew up in that bipartisan household. Dad's the Democrat, mom's the Republican. Politics wasn't important. What was important were values. And those values were around family. They were around service to others. It was around a duty to care for others. And that's certainly what helped get my family through hard times. And in the aftermath of events like 9/11, it led me, those values, to go serve my country. And so I spent about 15 years at the CIA, leading teams hunting down some of the world's most dangerous terrorists. As you mentioned, I worked in the same department that found bin Laden. I served in Afghanistan and Iraq, and stepped up to achieve what we all expect our government to achieve, and that's about safety, security, and strength for us in response to those threats. And my success in doing that led to those opportunities to serve in two different White Houses. Certainly the Obama White House as the director for counterterrorism, and then the Trump White House asked me to stay on in that role, and I did for a year. And again, that just underscores not just a campaign slogan of country before party. That's my lived experience. When it comes to protecting our country, our communities, my family, and yours, we need to put country before party to achieve just that. So, yeah, we're running in this race here because in the aftermath, particularly, you guys have been talking about it all this morning, about January 6th, we saw members of Congress, to include Congresswoman Stefanik, who's leading an effort to sort of distract folks right now. She put her own self-interest and her party's interests ahead of the needs of our country. We really need some truth here. And that was one of the greatest assaults on law enforcement we've ever seen in this country. We're all just touching on the deaths of 5 police officers in the aftermath of that event, certainly the serious injuries of more than 100. And what we need is somebody who's going to put country before party to focus on safety, security, and strength. And that's what we're doing here in this campaign.
Do we have anyone left? And this is not a criticism of Republicans, but I fear that if the shoe was on the other foot, Democrats would be doing the exact same thing. I have no confidence that Democrats would be doing anything different.
Yeah, I mean, it can't just be about one side versus the other. There have to be some common values that take us forward. And what I heard Christine just talking about, certainly for those of us, she served, as I understand, in the Air Force. I served at the CIA. We took an oath. And that oath is to the Constitution of the United States. And when I see folks like Liz Cheney step up for that oath, regardless of political party, regardless of who's in power, the oath to the Constitution matters. And it's our conviction and strength of character that gets us through the tension that we may have where you're getting pulled to one side versus the other. We need to have that common set of values that tie us together as Americans and to be able to put our country first.
Matt, wouldn't you say, though, that Elise Stefanik has maneuvered her way pretty eloquently to a position of power, and to have a person in such a position of power, especially if Republicans take the House back, would certainly be greatly beneficial for our area?
Well, it hasn't been to date. In over 8 years in Congress, she's only gotten 2 bills passed, from sponsorship into law, a commemorative coin and the renaming of a post office. When it comes to Elise Stefanik, she's just like every other Washington politician who puts her own, political calculations, her own advancement of her career ahead of the needs of our community. She's voted against our interests time and time again, whether that's investing in our community through infrastructure, voting against veterans' health benefits, voting against reducing child care costs. She's consistently sort of putting her own self-interest ahead of our own. And so, if she wants to ascend the political ladder, that's fine, but she shouldn't be stepping on us to do that. And in what she's doing right now, we've seen terribly, and, it gives me no pleasure to say this, she's really embracing extremism in order to advance her career. She promoted this great replacement theory that was the same thing that inspired this attacker out in Buffalo. I'm a counterterrorism guy. I understand that the extremist rhetoric has the power to incite extremist violence, and that's exactly what happened. And there's no repercussions for that thus far. And so I don't think Congresswoman Stefanik's advancement in her own career has done us any good. And if anything, it's actually created more insecurity in our community. You talk to folks all throughout the North Country, throughout central New York, they're facing serious challenges. And I've certainly driven around what is 15 different counties that make up this district. Folks are, struggling with the rising costs, certainly of groceries and transportation, but they've been long struggling with, lack of access to child care and, inaffordable health care. We need to address those issues, and Stefanik hasn't done it. These are top challenges, and we need folks focused really on solving problems and less about advancing their own political career.
Again, you don't sound like a Democrat. How do you handle the defund police cries that are coming from so many from the left right now? Even today, as our streets are far less safe than they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, I reject it wholesale because I grew up, all of my friends when I was a kid, their dads were cops. And I grew up surrounded by good cops who put serving and protecting our communities first. And that's where, I got some of those values that I was just mentioning that led to my career of service. And I certainly lived a career that had working hand in hand with federal law enforcement, state and local law enforcement. You mentioned my work with the New York State Police. So, during these times, we need to be making more investments in our law enforcement, providing them with additional resources to handle the challenges that we're facing. And for those who are on the left who are concerned about, gun violence in our communities and our schools, the solution to that is making sure that our law enforcement have additional information and resources to keep us safe. So I'm going to be a forceful advocate and proponent for our law enforcement, as I have throughout my entire life.
And one more you're running on I hate to be. You seem to be very able and willing to handle any questions that we throw at you, and I appreciate that.
Sure.
You're running in a climate where it is not an appealing climate to run in if you're a Democrat. You have inflation, violence throughout cities, and even in rural areas around the country. You're dealing with gas prices that even with the relief that came by foregoing the tax, and we have done that here in Oneida County as well. We're almost up to $5 a gallon. When people drive to the polls and vote, they're going to have paid who knows what for their gasoline. How do you run in the midst of that climate?
Yeah, what you just listed were the problems facing our country and our community. And what we should be expecting out of any representative of government is somebody focused on solving those problems, not passing blame, not making people afraid of them, but actually delivering solutions. And in this race against Congresswoman Stefanik and here in New York 21, we're going to make this a referendum on her record. She's been in office for 8 years. And many of those problems that you just enumerated, she has made worse. She has perpetuated and created insecurity within our communities. And she's not doing anything or offering any actual solutions. She's complaining a lot. She's talking about making people afraid of these issues. And, problem solving shouldn't be partisan. Problem solving is how we run our businesses. It's how we run our families. We come together and we figure out what are the solutions to the problems that we're facing. And so that's how you run in a race like this, and that's how we're going to win this election, because people are tired of the extremism. People are tired of the loudest voices in the room being on the extremes, and they want some folks to come together in the middle to actually solve the problems that are facing us.
One of the problems that you guys were just illustrating was, what gas prices are right now. I don't know that Elise Stefanik has been against. Let me ask you this: where are you on investing in American oil or American energy, and how does this problem get fixed where we're paying $5 a gallon?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and it's one that we've faced before, and it's one that I think is born out of being so tied to fossil fuels. OPEC or big oil they're holding us hostage, and the way you make reduction in prices is through competition. And so, yes, we need to produce more, and if there are opportunities to do so, we should be pursuing them in the short term to provide relief. As I look at this problem, not as a partisan, but as somebody that's trying to analyze the problem, it's not clear to me that there's any regulation out there that's holding oil producers from drilling for more. The thing that's stopping drill, baby, drill right now is Wall Street, because they've insisted that big oil boost their profits and pad shareholders' wallets. And so we need to break through that and stop being so beholden to big oil. Now, we know that there are politicians who are in the pocket of big oil. We need to be able to create a diversified energy economy. So, yes, we need to produce more on a near-term basis, but that's only going to be a drop in the bucket in something that is determined by a global sort of price structure. OPEC determines oil prices, and we need to put pressure on all of those nations in OPEC. But the real long-term solution is to never be put in a position like this ever again, where we're held hostage to what might be happening in global conflict like in Ukraine or after a pandemic. We need to be able to say we've got multiple options for our energy. You now need to compete for our business. And the way that businesses should be competing for our business is by reducing the prices. But we need to have options to do that.
The argument from the other side is going to be there is less competition when America is out of the market. Also, if we want to take out other factors like what happens in Ukraine, how that affects what we pay at the pump, the answer, the other side would argue, is to be more self-sufficient, not to rely on Russian oil or Saudi oil or wherever it might be coming from.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but the data supports that we produce more than what we consume. So it's not a question of being totally reliant on foreign energy sources. It's a question on do we have enough energy in the market to reduce prices for everybody? This is a classic, I'm a business guy too, not just a CIA guy. It's a supply and demand imbalance. Right now, there's not enough supply in the market to meet the high demand that we have from an economy that's roaring back to life. And that's true across the board. This isn't just an American problem. Gas prices, fuel prices, diesel prices are high everywhere. And so how do we create more supply? And that's not just from our fossil fuel industry. It's also from alternative sources of energy to help reduce those costs.
Was it a mistake to shut down the pipeline?
So I think this is a bit of a misnomer. The pipeline, the Keystone Pipeline exists. It's operational. It's the XL portion of it that's not operational. So as I understand it and looking into this a little bit, there is oil flowing through the Keystone Pipeline. And right now, if I use an analogy, it's as if we've got a large size soft drink. And right now, a medium amount of volume is flowing through it. XL was going to bring the size of that soft drink cup to an XL portion. But right now, the thing that's flowing through it is just a medium. And so XL pipeline is still operational, or the Keystone Pipeline is operational. It's moving. I think it's a distraction to focus on the closing of the XL portion of this.
Interesting, because the way it's reported is that the one thing Biden did when he first came into office was that it wasn't complete under Trump, hadn't been completed, and that Biden finally once and for all shut it down. It is interesting. I got to dig into that and see. It sounds like you have, but I'd like to see it for myself. So, anything else? Anybody have any other? Again, Matt, you do not sound like a Democrat. I don't know what the hell you're thinking. What are you doing?
I'll end this on a lighter note. Every picture I see of Matt, not everyone, but most of them, every place you stop, you get a cheeseburger, which is kind of an undemocratic thing to do. Can you talk about that? Is that coincidence? I just happen to see.
Why is that an undemocratic thing to do?
Because typically, if you're a vegan or vegetarian, you fall onto the left side, right? Not the right side? Am I wrong about that? Am I stereotyping?
I guess probably, yeah. Although I don't see Christine as a lefty.
So Matt, what's with all the burgers?
Yeah, I love burgers. I think that they're the perfect meal. I mean, when people ask you that question, what would your final meal be? It would be a burger, certainly with cheese and bacon, as much stuff as you could throw on it. And every opportunity that I have as I drive throughout the 15 counties of New York 21, I stop in for a burger and often a beer. And, we take a little picture or video of that. There have been some concerns out there from some of our supporters, like, does Matt eat anything other than burgers? What's his cholesterol like right now? I am happy to report I'm in great health. I certainly, I spend some time working out as well to offset all of that. But I love burgers,
right.
And happy to have a burger with any of your listeners as we make our way throughout the trail during this campaign.
Now, this campaign includes Herkimer County, and I believe a portion of I guess it doesn't any longer include Oneida County. It's hard to keep track with all the redistricting.
It keeps changing.
Yeah. But I will say this. You're driving by, if you're traveling through this district, you're driving by an awful lot of Trump flags. And it's got to give you the reminder that you are in Trump country here, and you're going against a high-ranking Republican. This is no easy challenge. But then again, my guess is you know that.
Yeah, I'm not shy about tough challenges, and I think we should have folks that are stepping up to tough challenges facing our community. And right now, Congresswoman Stefanik isn't. She's focused on her career, and she's focused on her own self-interest and not the needs of our community. So right. I feel very confident of our ability as we travel throughout all those 15 counties. And, we're going to win over Trump voters. We're going to win over independents, and we're going to win over Democrats, because that's how we're going to solve problems in this country, is by coming together.
Matt Castelli, running for Congress. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Let us know when you're in town, by the way. We'll grab a burger.
Okay.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.